Welcome back to Wheel Food. Today I'm going to be unboxing my brand new wheel, which is the Begode Extreme, or as the Americans like to say, Begode. So I've been waiting a little while for this. I know all the Americans and a few other people around the world have already got them. But there's one good thing about waiting for a wheel to be released to everyone else first, is that they become all the crash test dummies. So that's always nice because it means I don't need to be it. I should get some scissors. And as we open it up, we've got a nice spec list of the Extreme. We've got certificate of compliance. Yeah, I'm sure that means a whole lot. We've got a few tools and we've got a spring here. So that spring is 650 pounds. We've got our shock pin bolt and a few tools. Pull this foam out a lot. Good riddance. We've got another box here. So we've got our charger. Now, this is good at Begode to supply a 5 amp charger. Normally they only supply 3 amp, I believe. Yeet. I'm going to tilt this down on the floor. Got some nice wrapping around the pedals to stop the studs from scratching anything. That's nice. So as you can see, we've got this in its compressed state, which is why we need to put that pin into the shock. Now I need to get the wheel to go down. So we'll see how we go with that. It's not easy. Nope, that ain't working. So I spent a little bit of time off camera trying to get the suspension to extend, and I tried having 2 people, one holding the handles, one holding the wheel, just couldn't get it to let go. So the only way that I was able to make it extend was put a long flathead screwdriver in the back and literally pry the suspension free. As soon as I got the first 10 millimeters or so, I was able to easily pull the wheel and extend the suspension. So that was good. So now we're going to put the shock bolt in. So I've also measured the wire diameters. So this 650 pound spring, that's about 8mm wire diameter, and the one that's in it is about 9mm. Now the reason I did measure them is because I can't see any writing on the spring that's in the wheel at the moment. So I just want to make sure they're not exactly the same. Luckily they're not, so I assume that's the 900 pound spring. So get this bolt here. Turn the wheel around for you. Might even bring it in close. We've got two little kind of bushes. So they're our soft hole, and then these two other holes which are a hard hole. So we're going to be placing the shock in the soft hole today. Now, it doesn't actually line up at the moment with it fully extended, which I've seen is kind of a common thing. So what we're going to try and do is go into our, actually we don't need to go into our bag because it's already got a hole in it. So we get this little black rod, and this actually twists the base of the spring that adjusts our preload. So hopefully, if I just keep on turning that, actually it's pretty loose at the moment, so I can probably do it by hand. Hopefully that'll adjust the shock to the point where I can just slide the rod in. Alright, so we've currently got no tension on the spring. So if I just compress the shock at the same time as trying to get this in. So now I've put the second spacer in. And try not to push the little washer out. And we'll put a little bit of Loctite on that. So one thing that I've learned since owning unicycles is that you should always bolt check them, especially when they're brand new. So right now I'm just going to go over all the bolts and just make sure everything is all nice and tight. Alright, I've done the bolt check and I've tightened a couple of bolts that weren't fully tight. So we've also got our pedal angle adjustment there, which is nice. And now we're going to go back to tightening the shock to get some preload into the spring, or tighten the spring I should say. So it's pretty simple. All you have to do is stick the rod in and rotate. So just keep doing that a few times. This is a bit of trial and error, so you do need to do it a few times, jump on it, and see how much sag you want to have for your type of riding and what you're happy with. Alright, it's time to now turn the Extreme on. So from what I've seen, you have to hold the right button, so there's two little buttons there. Hold the right button to turn it on. There we go. So it's making noises. It's currently in transport mode. So now we need to hold the left button and quickly push the right button 5 times. We'll click it 5 times. Now hold the right button again to turn it off. And hopefully when we hold the right button again to turn it back on, it will self-balance. Back on. Alright, she's self-balancing. Woo! Not completely dead. So we've got, hopefully that's showing up on the camera. So there we are on the camera. We've currently got 3 bars. Got kilometers, got temperature, and obviously our 3-digit speedo. So I've just finished updating the firmware on the wheel, which all you have to do is download the Begode app on your phone, or you can also do it in the EUC world, and you just follow the prompts, and it's fairly self-explanatory. You can try and set the language to English, but during the firmware update it's still not English. So it's a bit of guesswork there, but it's not too bad. So I've hopped on and off the wheel a few times to set the preload of the spring, and I've got it about right. I've got a little bit of sag, which is what you want, and I don't know if it's the wheel or me or something else, but there seems to be a little bit of sticking happening in the suspension. So I'm just going to go take it for a ride, see if things loosen up, wear in, whatever, and just see if we can get it a bit better. Maybe that's just how it is, and I'm used to the suspension on the Kingston, the S22 Pro. So yeah, we'll take it for a ride. I'll throw some footage up now of going on the ride, and then I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts on the wheel. hopefully you've all enjoyed that riding segment. Now, I have actually done about 350 kilometers on this since first doing the unboxing, because I thought it'd be the only real fair way to give this thing a bit of a review. Let's start out with my favorite thing about this Extreme, and it's the power. The power on this thing is just awesome. There's just so much torque when you're going uphill. It doesn't complain, it just goes for it. Basically limited by the traction of the tire rather than the power of the motor, which is awesome. Also, the braking is just phenomenal. Very happy with that. The charge port being underneath, it's nice and easy to get to, and it's well protected, so I'm a big fan of that. The front handle, that's also quite nice. I wish it was a little bit further forward towards the front of the unicycle. If it just came straight up, that would be a lot better, I think. Then you wouldn't be hitting your knees on it quite as much. The rear tail light, I actually like the rear tail light, and the speaker. I enjoy some music while I ride along, so I'm a fan of that as well. It'd be nice if it had a little bit more protection around it, just to protect it when you stack it. As for the seat, it's actually quite nice. Obviously, an aftermarket one would be a bit softer and you can adjust the height of it, but for a stock seat, it's actually quite comfortable. As for the display, I haven't got it on at the moment, but the display reads really big numbers and it's quite concise, and yeah, just a big fan of that as well. The speaker that's on this, it's directly underneath here, and it is really friggin' loud, so that's great while you're riding nice and fast, because it means that you can actually hear the beeps and you can make sure you don't cut out. Now we're going to go to the negatives, and to start with, we're going to go with the pads. The stock pads, I'm really not a fan of. I know some people love them, I absolutely hate them. You can't lock your feet in properly, so I've started designing my own custom pads, still working on it, trying to develop the perfect pads for me, because everyone is different. Along the lines of the pads as well, I made up some aluminium fairings, so I just used some aluminium plate, obviously cut it to size, stuck some Velcro on it, and we're good to go. One thing that I just don't understand about this wheel is the trolley handle. I would never trust lifting the wheel up with the trolley handle in that low position, and when you put it in the high position, you get so much flex that it's just horrible to use. It really is. I don't know why they can't just make something that doesn't have so much flex in it. However, it being centered with the wheel, that's really nice, but it's just horrible how much movement there is in it. One small gripe that I have is the headlight not having its own button. So on my S22, it's just got a little button, which is also the power button. You just flick it and it turns your headlight on, turns your headlight off. Whereas in this, you have to use the app, and I don't know about you, but I don't use my phone that regularly while I'm riding. So it'd be nice if they just had a little button that you can just hit it, turn the light on, turn your light off. Now, getting onto the stability of this wheel, I'm really not a fan of it. I find it wobbles a bit too much. I find that my S22 Pro, it just effortlessly goes straight. It doesn't wobble. You brake, it doesn't wobble. You accelerate, it doesn't wobble. It just stays put. With this thing, I get wobbling pretty much most of the time, especially while braking. Now, I'm not sure whether that's me, the rider, not being used to a 16-inch wheel over a 20-inch wheel, but I have put 350 Ks on it and it hasn't gone away. Or it's the Extreme itself, or it's the tyre. Now, I've talked to a few people that reckon this stock tyre is absolutely junk and it causes the wheel to wobble. So very soon I'm going to be replacing it with a Shinko 241 tyre to see if we can eliminate the wobbles of this. Alright, getting on to my least favourite thing about this wheel, which is the suspension. As you can see, this is the replacement spring and shock that Begode has sent me, and it's better. It certainly is better than what came with its stock, but it is still rubbish. Now, I'm sure I'm going to offend a lot of Begode fanboys out there, but it's the truth. When you compare this to the S22 suspension, it is night and day difference on how it operates. Yes, the S22 requires more maintenance, but its actual rideability is just worlds apart. So I tried with the stock spring, which was the 900 pound black spring that came with the wheel, and I either bottomed the spring out or I used all the travel and bottomed the sliders out, which when I was riding off-road made the pedals dig into the ground, and I got ejected and the wheel went flying, as well as I went flying. Luckily I landed on my feet and ran it out. So as for this new spring and shock, like I said, it's a lot better. I've got the 1300 pound spring in it, so 1300 pound, and I can still bottom it out. So I did a roughly 850 millimeter drop onto flat grounds, flat concrete, and it bottomed out. Now that was with me being rider weight of roughly 72 kilograms with my kit on, and I'm bottoming out in less than a meter. So once again, it could be me just not doing something right with the shock and the spring and all that, but I've tried, once again, many different things and I can't make it work. So yeah, one of my biggest gripes with this wheel is the suspension. Now that leads me on to what's happening in the next video. So as for the next video, they're going to be about these little beauties. These are aftermarket suspension linkages from a bloke in the EUC community called Vince Ramirez. Hopefully I pronounced that right, probably didn't. So these are billet CNC machined. They come with hopefully all the parts we need. We've got pins and 3D printed spacers and all that good stuff. So we'll be throwing these on, and yeah, I'll just be doing the video on how to install these onto your Extreme. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video on my review of the Extreme wheel. If you haven't, well, thank you very much as well. But if you have, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next video.